What's up, everyone? We're doing something different today. We're going to go through, I made this tier list, tier maker for the V Rising abilities. We're going to go through and rank them all from S to D. And like you guys can see, if you're looking at them all, I'm only covering the normal abilities. We're not doing dashes or ultimates. Dashes, I already made a video on, so if you're interested on that, check it out. And ultimates is actually a future video I'm going to make, so you can stay tuned for that. If you like this content, of course, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out the Twitch at twitch.tv/Redlaf. And if you want to play with me or join in for a popular server that we're hoping is going to last more than just a few days like a lot of servers are, check out the Discord and join in on our Redlaf Ragnarok server, which has been peaking every single night with a super active group, and it's been really fun. So definitely recommend checking that out if you are interested. But without further ado, we're going to go through all these abilities, rank them, talk about them, and have some fun. So we're going to go ahead and just go in order that is listed here. So first things first is going to be Ward of the Damned. Now, Ward of the Damned, I am not the biggest fan of, and we're starting off on a low point. And the reason why is, while in PvE, I think it's really nice to get the extra mobs. In PvP, I'm not the biggest fan. Sure, like melee attackers are knocked back, but the little like ghouls or like skeleton guys that you summon are pretty bad. They don't do a lot of damage. They get taken down fairly easily, and their AI tracking is not the best. So we're gonna put that in the D tier spot. Next, we have Blood Rage. Now, Blood Rage is good for some situations. Having one person on like a 4-man clan rocket is not the worst thing. You get the shield, and you get, increased attack speed and all that. So it's really nice for just kind of popping it right before engage, giving that increased attack speed if you have some players rocking melee, or if you yourself are rocking melee. And of course, the shield to all your nearby allies you have to target is nice, but it's not the strongest, and it just kind of falls flat compared to other ones. So we're going to put that in the C tier. Unstable Mosquito. Now this is a fun one and a popular one for many slasher builds, and kind of trying to get some one-shots because like the damage is nice, but also the easy amplify. And once you incapacitate someone with like the slasher's invisibility, it's basically a guaranteed hit, and you can also use it to block abilities. So it's definitely not bad, but it's very niche in its application. It's not the best for many builds, and so while I think it is like, the potential is really strong, the execution to be able to make it work doesn't have that same kind of like skill level. So this is actually going to go right in the B tier, right in the middle, where it can be really good, but it's not necessarily the best. Crimson Aegis, I am not the biggest fan of this. It's just, like, I don't know what to say about that. It's just, it's C tier. It's not the worst thing. It's okay in PvP and like certain 1v1s and stuff. It's not as bad as something like D tier. It might be like high D tier, but I think it's just kind of low C tier. It's not the worst. In some builds it works well, like some melee axe builds if you want to go with that, but it's kind of not the biggest fan. And same thing with Corpse Explosion. The cast time on it just isn't there, and like the damage, well, it deals like 125% magic damage. Like, why would you try to do that when it's like a slow cast? Like, it's a build up to be able to hit it, and like it's just 125 compared to like doing something like a Chaos Volley if you're wanting like the raw damage. So the snare is nice, but that's what keeps it from D tier, but it's not that good. We're gonna go ahead and skip ahead to an obvious one, since I mentioned it. Chaos Volley, of course, is going to be S tier. Until this thing gets nerfed, it's just the best raw DPS ability. Many people, if not most people, run this ability. It's hard to beat. 125% magic damage on both hits, and the Chaos Burn. It is the DPS ability in this game if you hit it. There's ways to outplay it and negate it, like some builds I've made, but overall, just if you're looking for raw damage in your build, nothing is better. Nothing really comes close, and it's hard to compete with it since it's so strong. So it's going to be an S tier, even though many of you know I'm not the biggest fan of the ability. I find it boring, but here we are with it being the best one. And we're going to go ahead and slap in an A tier next, actually, just to kind of fill out the rest of this chart. That's going to be Chaos Barrier. Chaos Barrier is slept on. I know some people, especially those who like actually rock like PvP tournaments, will not really like this. I think it's slept on by like your more average player, but it's really good. I think blocking abilities are highly underrated. I think you're starting to see them be picked up more by players, but I think it's been underrated for a while. They're really strong at negating other abilities, especially since we're in the Chaos Volley meta where you can just block that and negate it. And the fact that it shoots back is really strong, as well as it pulls the target towards you. So going against something like the Chaos Volley user, when you hit it, it shoots back at the player so they might get hit, and then also it pulls them towards you for you to then set up a nice combo off of it. So that's going to go in the A tier. However, it is relied upon people doing stuff towards you, and it's not just a self-reliant, self-empowering ability, so it can't be S tier in my opinion. Next we got Shadow Bolt. Shadow Bolt is really strong damage. I actually think it's the highest single target damage you can get out of a base ability at 200% magic damage, and the snare is really nice, but the buildup is really hard. It's kind of similar to the Unstable Mosquito, where some builds, especially if you're trying to get like those flashy one-shot builds, can work with it if you can step in an Incapacitate or a Freeze. So that's really good, but the raw, it doesn't provide anything beyond the raw damage, and it's really hard to actually make it useful. So it's actually going to go, I'm going to put it towards the top of C tier right now. I think is the plan. The top of C tier, I think, is where this belongs. Next we got Pestilence. Now Pestilence is not like the worst ability. It's pretty decent for like PvE because you get the double waves and you launch 3 out there. And the damage on them is pretty bad. It's only like 40% for each little thing, so it doesn't do a lot of damage, but the knockback and the amplify is really nice, especially in like 4v4 events where you can throw them out and hit multiple people with the amplify. That's like the kind of thing that makes it good. It's just amplify is so strong in this game. It's at 25%, so that's really solid. But the damage isn't there, the knockback isn't insane, and it's kind of easy to dodge because the projectile is so slow. So we're going to put it kind of like middle of C tier, where it could be useful, and there are some builds if you're trying to go that route, like having one person on the clan rocket is not the worst thing for the easy amplify if you hit it, but it just kind of lacks in like too many things to get up to the B tier. Next, we are going to go skip ahead to Mistrance. Many of you guys know I'm a huge fan of Mistrance, so this might be a bias rating. I really enjoy it. I use it in my sword build. I think it's really strong, especially as a way to fight Chaos Volley users, because if you toss up Mistrance and they hit you with the first Chaos Volley, you go unmaterial, and so they can't hit you with the second one or any other ability, and then you could TP next to them or behind or anything. It's really strong to just kind of pop up where they're not expecting it and get your own combo off. I'm a huge fan of this ability. I love this ability. I highly recommend it. I think it's slept on. However, because it is a counter and relies on actually like going against kind of not bad players, but not the best players who know how to cancel their abilities and negate that, it can't be S tier, so I'm going to put it into the A tier. Next up we have Ice Nova. This one's decent. It's 100% magic damage, so it's not the most powerful, but the chill is really nice, and the AoE is really solid, so you can hit a clump of people, or like I mentioned in my Frost build video, if you're like raiding someone, you know you're going to be like in hallways or little honeycombs. It's really good because they don't have much space to move around it, or kind of forced to kind of tank it, and so it can be really good, especially if you can hit like a slow beforehand and then hit it, or even get a chill off and then hit it. It's really, really nice. It has decent damage, big AoE, and obviously if they're already chilled, it'll freeze them, so you can set up some nice combos with it. But the cast time, very similar to Corpse Explosion. The cast time on it is just too slow. It's kind of easy to kind of just walk by and dodge, and so I'm not the most impressed by it. I know other people are, so I think it has potential to be good, but it's not the best. It's just kind of like niche, so we're going to put it in the C tier. Top of the C tier to be specific. Next we got Aftershock. Really good PvE ability, especially if we're fighting bosses who have summons to kind of lay that out, lead the summons to you, they all get damage. It's nice, pretty solid damage, and it's nothing crazy, but it is good. It's like what, it's like 100%, I think. Maybe it's like 110, but I don't think it's anything crazy compared to like 125 or anything. But in terms of PvP, it's pretty easy to walk around. Like, it's not the biggest AoE unless you're just like can't see it, or like maybe like in a corridor it would work, but otherwise it's just kind of easy to walk around and dodge because it's so slow, and because it gives an indicator before it kind of fires off, that I'm putting it in D tier. I think it's better than Ward of the Damned for PvP, but I'm gonna put it in B tier, or D tier, sorry. Up next we have Wisp Dance. I love Wisp Dance. I use it in my sword build with Mistrance. I think in that situation that's a very niche build that works well, and similar to Unstable Mosquito, you have to have a niche build to really make it work well, otherwise the damage just isn't there with the Wisp Dance. But doing stuff like the sword build or some other builds that you can rock, just having that layered to kind of make them not deal as much damage is really solid, and the kind of versatility of being able to have it melee or recast it for range is nice. So I'm going to put it at the top of B tier. I think it's a bit more open than the Unstable Mosquito. There's a bit more stuff you could do with it, but I don't think it's anything that goes into A or S. Spectral Wolf, I'm not going to say much about this. In PvP, I think it's kind of bad. Maybe I'm sleeping on it. I haven't given it a lot of time to really experiment, so maybe I am sleeping on it. I only really used it in some like 1v1s or 2v2s for like on a practice server to test it out. But I don't like it personally. Maybe I just haven't given it the time, and maybe there's a build I'm sleeping on, but I'm not going to spend too much time. I'm just not the biggest fan. Spectral Assassin, I know a lot of people who like this. I don't like it because I don't like the AI targeting. I feel like it misses more than it hits. In PvE, I think it's really nice, but in PvP, like it summons, unless they're like frozen in another clump, it doesn't do enough for me to like, for it to be memorable. It's nice because it deals a good amount of damage. It's 125%, so it's the same as like that raw first damage of like, the Chaos Volley, but it's just, I don't like AI tracking in this game for abilities. It's the same reason why I kind of rated like the Illusion Dash lower on my Dash build. I'm just not the biggest fan of the AI tracking in this game. I think abilities that rely on that just end up not being the best, and so we're gonna put it in B tier because it can be really strong, but 9 times out of 10 I just feel like it kind of falls flat. But I do think it's better than the rest of these C tier abilities, so we're gonna put it in B tier. Next, we have Frostbat. I think this one's really good. I'm a big fan of it. Now, double hit will freeze them. Each hit does 100% magic damage, so it's a little bit less than Chaos Volley, but you have the utility of the chill, or then perhaps the freeze if it hits both. So that's really good for setting up combos. At the very least, if you can't hit both, hit one for a slow to be able to then hit other abilities and other things. I think it's really strong. So I like this one a lot. If you're not wanting to run Chaos Volley, this is a good substitute for Chaos Volley that gives you some utility for the little bit less damage, which I think is a good trade-off that people are going to start recognizing more and more as the PvP kind of advances in this game. So we're going to put Frostbat here at A tier. I'm going to put it above Mistrance but below Chaos Barrier. Now for Frost Barrier, similar reasons to Chaos Barrier why I like it. Just I think kind of these shield abilities are slept on, and having 1 or 2 in your group to run with, or if you even want to walk around in like a 1v1 or 2v2 is really, really solid. Just negates a lot of combos, and the kind of pillar of ice that shoots up is really solid because it deals a decent amount of damage and does the chill on them. So that's really nice, but it doesn't like guarantee that chill, and if you don't get that, it doesn't have like a redirect like the Chaos Barrier or anything like that. It just kind of blocks and kind of deals damage to people if they hit, don't like move basically. So it's not as strong as Chaos Barrier, but it's definitely not a bad ability, and certainly better than Ward of the Damned. So I'm gonna put it right in the B tier. Where I think if you're rocking a Frost build, like my Frost build, it's really solid. You could use it for a lot of things, but if you're not really using another Frost ability with Frost Barrier, it kind of falls a bit flat. So it's kind of in that B where it's good, but a bit more niche tier of abilities. Crystal Lance, I'm going to put at the bottom of B tier. I've talked about Crystal Lance a few times. The damage is really good, 150% magic damage, and the chill, and then the splinter. This is a really good opener build, or opener ability, where if you are setting up a flank, or you're planning something, or you're being raided, you know, like a pathway is really solid, but like the wind up time is just kind of too slow to be like consistently used, and it's a bit more of a niche ability that has high potential, but you have to have a build kind of set up or a situation set up to be used it well. So that's where we're gonna put that. Next we got Void. I actually like Void. I think it's really solid. I think it's a good option to rock. I think people kind of sleep on it because the damage is a bit lower because it's only 70%. However, I think it's actually a really solid ability. I've had some friends and myself run it in fights, and it just provides a lot. Just with like, it forces people to move around it. You can waste their mobility, and the damage, well, it's only 70%. If you hit both, that's obviously 140%. So all of a sudden you're dealing a good chunk of damage. You get the Chaos Burn, and you can hit multiple targets with it. So if they're clumped together, all of a sudden you're doing like, it's basically like if 4 guys are clumped together and you hit them with both voids, that's like you hit 2 or 4 guys with a singular Chaos Volley, which is better than a Chaos Volley because you only get 2 hits with it, right? So it has that kind of potential and really good, but kind of similar to like the Crystal Lance or some of these other B tiers. It's a bit more situational, but I like this ability. I think this is another one that's kind of slept on by people that can be really, really strong and like shouldn't be slept on. Now for Power Surge, love Power Surge. I have a buddy who swears by Power Surge, says it's one of the best abilities, and I respect that out of him, and I agree it is a good one. I don't think it's S tier, but I think it is very, very good. Be it the capabilities of removing all negative effects. So if you're chilled or have a chaos burn on you or snared or anything, you just negate all that to stop combos. The shield is really nice. You can do it on yourself or an ally. The movement speed and attack speed is really good. It's really nice if you can pop it and like kind of go invisible with slashers and kind of have that increased movement speed to get that incapacitate off. There's a lot of uses for this ability. I think it's very, very solid, and I highly recommend it if you're looking for something to give you a bit more of an edge. It basically is kind of similar to some of these other abilities like that Blood Rage and stuff, but it's just kind of better. So I like it. I think it's consistency and how you can just use it and know it's going to work compared to like Mistrance. Puts it in the A tier above Mistrance, but I'm not going to put it above Frostbat or Chaos Barrier myself. Now we're coming to Purgatory. I've talked about Purgatory a lot in all my videos. It's the second S tier ability. I'm not going to speak much on it. The slow, the damage, the double heal, it's the AoE. There's so many good things about this ability. I still think some of the strongest combos you can run is just Chaos Valley Purgatory. It's just like the safest. It's the best PvE build by far. In terms of PvP, it's really, really solid. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. I like running it with like my Mace and Reaper build. So I highly recommend that. I think it's just all around just always works well. And so I highly recommend it. Sanguine Coil is going to be our last A tier ability. I think the kind of ability to cast it multiple times is really nice. The damage is pretty solid. It's nothing crazy, but it's 75%, but you have multiple hits, so you can do a lot, and it leeches 40% on hit. And then you also have the capability of just throwing it at an ally to heal them real fast. So there's a lot of uses at it where you can just like damage and heal yourself or heal an ally, which is really, really solid. So because of that versatility and just how it just works, and the damage is pretty solid, it's really good in like 1v1 or small scale like scraps. I'm going to put this in A tier. I'm going to put it below Power Surge, but above Mistrance, just because obviously it's a skill shot and it can kind of be dodged or like kind of negated pretty easily. So you could miss it or just not get use out of it. And it's hard sometimes to hit allies if they need it, which is how fast and mobile fights get, but it is still an A tier ability. And lastly, Blood Right, trash. Yeah, trash. I love counters. I don't think Blood Right is good. The non-material is fine, but the push away and is not that good. The heal is not that good. Yeah, I if you're gonna run a counter, I just don't see any reasons why you would do Blood Right over Mistrance, in my opinion. Mistrance just provides a lot more. So yeah. And that being said, this is my V Rising abilities tier list. If you like this video or this content, hope you enjoy it. If you want some stuff similar, check out obviously my videos, but also there's a YouTuber, Legacy Gamer, who does really good abilities ranked videos that I would also recommend checking out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the content, and I will catch you all next time. Bye.